Now, for more analysis on the possible impact of this new legislation, we're joined again by Saruhan Hatipoglu, CGTN's global economics analyst and CEO of BERI. So, Saruhan, why is this issue coming to the forefront at this particular point in time?
Well, I don't think it is something that's new, Rachelle. The European Commission started talking about this in 2017, and after the election of President Trump here, we've seen protectionist waves all around the world. So it's not surprising that it's happening. It's surprising to me that it's happening actually this fast, in that it's in the parliament now, it's being discussed, and they may vote on it and make it a real deal before the end of the year.
And so given the size and the scope of this trade relationship, especially between the EU and China, how is China's acquisition of some of these high-tech businesses being viewed within the continent?
Not very positively, and that is not a new thing either. We're seeing now in Germany, France, Italy, and the UK, talking about outside, I'm saying outside now for the UK, but there have been protectionist measures. There was a purchase of a robotics firm in Germany by a Chinese company, and there was a lot of problem from that point from the regulator's side, and then they blocked a small manufacturing firm's purchase because of this. It was high-tech, even though it was small, the company itself, it was a high-tech purchase. The states in Germany are now pushing for more restrictions. And it's not only about China, even though it's any non-EU country, it is, let's be honest, it is directed at China. But there is now in Germany a bill that they're talking about the 25% requirement. So if a company purchases 25% of a German company, then it will be scrutinized. Now they're thinking about taking down that to 15%. We're seeing this in Italy. We're seeing this in the UK. We're seeing also outside of the EU, Australia, Canada, Japan are also doing the similar moves.
Now, would you say this is unanimous, this move that we're seeing across Europe? Because it seems as if some countries more than others seem to be bigger proponents of this.
I don't think there could be anything unanimous in Europe. Right? The Nordic countries are upset about this, Benelux countries, Sweden, Finland, because they think that this is a kind of a hidden thing for protectionism, and they're worried about that. In the southern side, I gave you the example of Italy, taken some measures, but they're also worried, along with Spain and Portugal, because the issue becomes, what have you done for me lately to the European Union? When they were going through all these crises, they were asked to do fiscal reductions and got very little investment. And here's one country coming in and wants to invest. So as we go along in the next 6 months to a year, we're going to hear from the periphery countries standing up and saying, hey, this is our business. We don't want your opinion, European Commission.
So then how likely is this agreement to go through in the time frame that they're trying to lay out?
I think it can go through. The only issue, the good thing about it is it's not binding, in that the states still have the final say. The European Commission portrayed it as, hey, look, we want to exchange information. We want to see what's happening to our national security. We have a common interest here. There was one idea that the Parliament tried to get in there, in that if 1/3 of the EU countries were upset or concerned about a potential investment, that it would not happen. Those countries did not agree with that. So it is still non-binding. Because it's non-binding, I think it's going to pass in a timely manner.
And how would you compare the European Union's approach to trying to protect some of its high-tech industries from how the US is approaching this issue?
Well, let's look at it from the Chinese perspective. Chinese companies are investing 9 times more in Europe than in the United States. In the first 6 months of this year, investment to the US contracted by over 90% to $2 billion, and it's 12 billion or so in Europe during the same time period. Now, let's also not make any mistake. China is divesting from both regions, except they're divesting far faster from the US than European Union. So the Chinese objective here, in my opinion, despite the disagreement here, they do see a point, and they want to be involved in Europe, and I think they will do so looking forward, because compared to what's happening in the United States, the opportunities are far better in Europe.
Now, one thing that you see in common with a lot of different countries' economic visions is this push for high tech. So as all these countries try and really achieve the same vision, would you say this is essentially going to change the entire trade picture going forward?
We are going into a Cold War period. This is not only the EU and China. The trade between the two countries and groups will be okay. But as far as high tech, we are going to a Cold War. and the U.S. is leading it together with China. I don't think much is going to come out of this meeting. Yeah, and that is going to have an impact on high tech. I think everybody's going to get hurt at the end because there's a lot of innovation taking place in China as well. But now the products that are produced in the U.S., for example, or the EU will not be allowed maybe in a year or so in China and vice versa. And that always hurts the consumers at the end.
All right. Well, thank you so much for staying with us. Saruhan Hatipoglu there, CGTN's Global Economics Analyst and CEO of BERI.